everybody. Welcome back to everyone's favorite stock talk show, the Wealth Advisory's Top 10. We're on to April 2024. Man, we had a phenomenal March 2024. The markets had a phenomenal March 2024. We're looking at average gains across our indices of around 2 to 2.5%. Could not keep up with the TWA top 10, though, unfortunately, for the markets. We are looking at an average gain of about 4 to 4.5% as of the close yesterday when I last checked. Pretty darn good. We had Albemarle just like ripped up the charts. That one was really nice. Only had one or two losers. I mean, I'd say it looks like we know what we're doing.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased, I'm pretty pleased. I gotta say, I didn't expect 30% or however much there from Albemarle when I recommended it, but,
Sometimes you get lucky. Better be lucky than good,
I have always said that. I fully agree with that. I'd much rather be lucky than good any day of the week. But you know what? I think we got a little bit of the luck of the Irish last month, like I asked for, and I think we're pretty good at this too. With that being said, I think we've got a really good shot at beating the markets this month too. The list looks great. The markets look pretty strong. The Fed is apparently going to cut rates this year, whether they need to or not, and that's awesome. That's going to drive up the markets. I was looking at some like historical data and stuff because I love looking at historical data and crunching numbers because I'm weird.
I do know that about you.
I've got a great personality, I swear, but I do love numbers. And the thing is, man, every single time that the Fed ended like a big rate increase policy, and paused and basically sort of telegraphed that they were going to be doing rate cuts, the markets have rallied up like 50 to 100% into those rate cuts, like into the first rate cut, and we're still like midway through that rally. So I think we've got a lot more to go. I'm really excited. I'm pretty bullish on this. I think we've got some good times coming up in the markets. The Fed's definitely going to be cutting rates. We're getting decent economic data. Things are looking good. I mean, obviously there's still some turmoil and strife in the world, which we will, I'm sure, be talking about with some of our picks. But otherwise, things are looking up. With all that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. Before we do, I just want to remind everybody watching on YouTube that this is a service that we provide for our paying subscribers to the Wealth Advisory. It not being fair to charge them for something that we're going to give away for free on YouTube. What we're going to do is we're going to run through our first 4 picks on YouTube, and then we're going to cut it off. We're going to do the last 6 picks only for our premium subscribers. But if you're watching on YouTube, you like the other picks, you'd like to become a subscriber, we're going to put a link in the description of the video to a discounted membership. It is well worth it. You don't just get the top 10 picks. You get monthly issues. You get feature recommendations. You get access to all of our research reports, everything we've ever written, and everything we ever will write. As long as you want to be a member, it's well worth it. But as I always say, if you decide not to join us, we won't hold it against you. We'll continue to put out the first 4 picks for as long as you want to watch. All we ask is that you subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up on the video, and hit that bell to make sure that you get notified when we post new stuff. So now that all of that's out of the way, let's finally get to the important part and start talking about stocks. And I'll give you guys my first pick of the month, our number 10, my number 5, and it is Schlumberger. Ticker symbol is SLB, so I'm just going to go ahead and underline that. The company's name technically is now also SLB. They've rebranded themselves, but I like saying Schlumberger, so that's what I'm going to continue to call them, at least for now. Anyway, it was a winner last month, and it looks like it could easily score another market-beating return in April. It's our oil field services company. Schlumberger doesn't, drill oil. It doesn't explore for oil. What it does is it goes into like really difficult climates and environments, and it helps companies extract the oil and get it to refineries and get it to market and stuff like that. It really, it's like a pick and shovel play for the oil industry. And we love it. It's done well. Shares were up double digits last month as the world continues to wake up to the demand side of the oil equation, which is that we're demanding lots of it. And the fact that the supply isn't going to cover it unless prices head higher. You've got OPEC wants to continue its cuts. Really, like they need oil at like $80 to $90 just to break even to cover all of the expenses that they pay for with it. They want prices to be higher. American oil companies wouldn't mind higher prices. They're making money at lower prices, but like they'll make even more at higher ones. I think that that we're going to see a lot of activity in the energy sector this year and going forward. And Schlumberger is just a great company, great stock, pays a dividend, and I think it can do well for us this month again. So maybe it'll give us another double-digit gain. Definitely, I think it can do a market-beating gain. And it's also the start of a trend that you're probably going to notice in my picks as we go through them. So with that, let me clear the screen off here and pass the mic to my friend Jason.
Yeah, I'm going to kick it off with a familiar favorite here, Northrop Grumman. And see, I've been talking about Northrop a lot recently, but we got some news recently, and there's big news and there's small news. We're going to start off with the small stuff. They just got $178 million to expand a munitions plant in West Virginia. So, I mean, that's the kind of traditional defense contracting work that Northrop is really, really accustomed to. And I've talked a lot about just simply how in demand ammunition is across the world right now. You obviously have, wars in Ukraine and, Israel, and there's not enough ammunition to go around, and we're talking about missiles and rockets and components of those things. Specifically, rocket motors are very hard to come by. A lot of smaller rocket motor companies, like Aerojet Rocketdyne, have been acquired by larger defense contractors. Northrop's one of those companies that picked one up. They got Orbital ATK a couple years ago. They manufacture these things, and they're in very high demand. So they're getting $178 million from the Navy to expand the Naval Industrial Reserve Ordnance Plant in Allegheny. That's a great deal for them. But here's what I really want to talk about today. DARPA has gone to Northrop Grumman, and they said, we want to put trains on the moon. And so Northrop Grumman now is in charge of forming an actual concept, a plan to establish a lunar railway. And, when I talk about contracts big and small and the kind of things that Northrop's in charge of, like handling our missile shield, this is the big thing. And so there are several reasons why you would want rail on the moon. And a lot of it comes down to, first off, the moon has to be a stopping point if we're ever going to make any headway on Mars, which is also a plan. You basically need an intermediary stop, a gas station, a place to resupply, kind of a base. And that's what the moon is going to be for a lot of people. And this isn't just science fiction. This is something that we're working on, that China's working on. We're actually kind of in a bit of a Cold War, throwback race to now reestablish a presence on the moon because we're so confident that this is China's end game. And so we're doing this. And you're going to need that rail, again, for a lot of reasons. But the surface of the moon is actually the size of Africa. And so there's a lot more space than you might think. And vehicle tracks, there will be, buggies, lunar buggies, but vehicle tracks on the moon can literally stay there for billions of years because that's the way the surface is. It doesn't get washed or blown away with rain or wind. So now what's Northrop going to have to do? I have a list. Here's what Northrop's going to have to do. Identify the resources needed, identify the cost, calculate the cost of building a lunar railway, technological and logistical risks, figure out what can go wrong, prototyping a concept for design and architecture, identifying problems of grading the rail line, building its foundations and laying the track, long-term inspection, maintenance, and repair, and figuring out how to build it with robots. Now, there are only so many companies in the world that can do this type of work, and Northrop Grumman is one of them. So when I talk about this company and the stock and the way it has, potential to grow its profit, and we're typically talking about defense budgets, but you can't sleep on these big, high-order projects that Northrop is really become the go-to agency for the U.S. government. And so that's the big news coming out of Northrop, and that's why I've got it here for this pick.
Space trains.
You can't really go wrong with a company that is putting trains on the moon.
I mean, seriously, wow. That's audacious. I love it, though. I love it. That's super cool. I was like, oh, well, that doesn't sound like a boondoggle or anything. And then you're like, no, actually, this is legit.
This is important.
This is real.
Waste of taxpayer dollars. No.
Definitely not. No, but it does make like complete sense. We do need like a way station, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, if we're gonna do interstellar travel.
And I mean, honestly, the competition
Interplanetary
with
travel.
China it's really no joke. They've been obviously doing a lot of work. There's a reason why we are now planning more manned missions back to the moon. You're going to see those in the next few years. You know, they're not on here today, but I talk about like Lockheed Martin. They're involved with a lot of that. Lunar development is a really, really, really big trend that's going to really evolve over the next several decades. And it's one, I know how crazy it kind of sounds, but at the same time, it's one of these things that it's true. It's actually happening. And, you know, these are going to be the companies that do it.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, you know, everything sounds crazy until it happens.
Sure, until it happens,
you know?
yeah.
It definitely, everything seems impossible until someone proves that it's possible. You know, so that's really impressive. That's really cool. I love that. I really appreciate you sharing that. I didn't know about the space trains. Lunar trains. All right. So my next pick is not quite as interesting as that story, but it's a great one. It was a mover last month, and I think it's got some potential to be another mover this month. And as you can see, it sort of sticks with that trend that I was telling you were going to notice. It's Devon Energy, ticker symbol DVN. Devon. Yeah, it's another mover and shaker from last month. The shares rallied double digits, just like SLB, and I expect them to keep on running, just like I expect SLB to. What I really like about Devon here is its exposure to some of the most prolific fields in the U.S. You know, it's an American oil company. It is exposed here in the U.S., in Oklahoma and Texas, in some of the greatest, you know, oil fields. It's got a very strong balance sheet. Right? Management does a really good job of keeping its debt levels low and its cash levels high, and you know, that means that if it needs to take on debt, it won't be difficult, but it doesn't have to take on debt, so that means we get more equity ownership in the company. The management has also been really good at getting more out of less. I think Jason pointed this out a couple of months ago that, you know, they're looking at their CapEx spending actually dropping, but their production increasing. So doing more with less, you gotta love that. And of course, I love the generous dividend that they pay, which gets even more generous as as oil prices rise, which is something that I think they're going to continue to do. So we've got, you know, U.S. exposure, strong balance sheet, great management, and a generous dividend that is probably going to get a lot bigger. So I like Devon. It's my number 4 pick, our number 8 pick for the month, and not quite as interesting as Lunar Trains, but
Don't beat yourself up.
It's going to be profitable. It's going to be profitable. Maybe not as profitable as Lunar Trains either, but you make some money with this one. And so let's send it back and see if Jason can top Lunar Trains.
It's not. This is going to be a huge letdown. I shouldn't have started with the Lunar Trains. I should have saved them. All right, but we're staying on brand here with energy because, I mean, Jason and I were always pretty bullish on oil, but like if you look at the recent action, West Texas crude is up over 10%, almost 11% year to date. Brent crude is up about 8.5%. Oil prices are on the rise. Now, the only reason they haven't gone further faster is because supplies have been pretty high. There has not been a huge drawdown in inventory, so that has more or less kept the ceiling on oil prices so far. But there's also nothing really working against them. There's nothing that's going to undermine them. There's really only risk. It's basically either, you know, with economic growth and, you know, any kind of resurgence or rebound we start to see really in China, because that's the economy that's really been lagging, and obviously hasn't been the United States. We're doing quite well. Any resurgence in demand is what's going to drive prices higher. But right now we're kind of at a floor. And, you know, it really only kind of goes up from where we're currently at, which is about $80 a barrel, a little bit more than that. You are going to see oil prices get back up to around 90 at least over the course of this year. This is what's going to happen. And again, any geopolitical risk that goes in there, Russia just announced, you know, they're going to follow through with the production cuts in line with OPEC Plus. On top of that, Ukraine has been increasingly targeting Russian energy resources. That could have an effect. But you talk about Viper as a company. I talked about it a little bit recently because it went up 14% in February. It was a pick back then when we were looking forward to its earnings report, which it once again knocks out of the park. But it's also a company that saw its oil production increase 13% last year, and it's projected to be at the high end of its production guidance over the course of the back end of this year. They expected a soft first quarter, and now it's really going to ramp up. So we're talking about a company that's going to increase production, and really take advantage of oil prices as they climb from here, either steadily or dramatically, depending on what happens in the world. But that is pretty much the main reason we are, so heavy into oil right now. You can see the bull market really forming. You can see it happening. Prices kind of lagged below $80 for a bit. There was a bit of a drop, but they're ready to go now. And Viper is going to be one of those companies that profits.
Yeah, something else I really like about Viper, and I was excited when I saw that you were going to pick it this month, was that it took a hit last month because some shareholders, inside investors, including Diamondback Energy, which is, Viper was sort of a subsidiary of Diamondback, spun off as an MLP, and now it's changed its structure. And because of changing that structure, they're sort of restructuring the investments in it. And they agreed to sell shares at, I think it was a few dollars below where the market was. But basically, they set a floor on the stock there. And it did not dip below it. And it's a great opportunity to buy it because, the only reason that it dipped was because, you could buy those shares for a little bit cheaper. And so, the market reacted, matched the price. And now, you've got a company that, should be trading a good $5 higher than what it is. So you could definitely get that jump back this month.
Yeah, it's got short and long-term prospects. It's
very much so. I like it. All right, and so those are our first 4 stocks. We're going to do a little recap here, and then we are going to have to say goodbye to you folks on YouTube. First up, number 10. My first pick, Schlumberger, also known as SLB. It's an oil field services company. We're bullish on energy, as Jason just said. And Schlumberger ran last month. We like to let our winners run, so we're going to let it keep running.
Yeah, Northrop Grumman. If the defense spending doesn't get you, I don't know how moon trains can't.
I mean, really, that's all you have to say.
This is the way to go,
Just
folks.
2 words.
Very
there.
clearly, I mean, how do you not invest in this company?
And moon trains. I mean, how can you say no to that? I can't. Take my money. Sign me up. I want some. I want some more, I should say. Next up, number 8. My 4th pick is Devon Energy Corporation. Again, bullish energy. Devon has a really strong balance sheet. It pays a generous dividend. As oil prices go up, that dividend's going to go up with it. Management does a great job of conserving money and still growing production. So it's just a stellar oil company, and I think everybody should own it.
Yeah, again, really leaning into energy here because we're just buying into the oil bull. And, Viper is also one of the lesser-known companies. It's a little bit under the radar. We're not talking about a company like Exxon here. It's a sneaky one and a really sneaky good stock.
Definitely. Excellent. So there you have it, guys. Those are our first 4 picks. For those of you watching on YouTube, we're going to cut it off here. But like I said, if you want to join us, you want to get the rest of the picks, plus all of the other benefits that go along with membership to the Wealth Advisory, there is a link to a discounted subscription in the description below the video. I thought I said a discounted description in the subscription, but I was right, and never mind. It's been a long week, guys. Anyway, there will be a discounted link to a discounted. There will be a link to a discounted subscription in the description below the video. If you guys would like to join us, we highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. Obviously, I'm biased, but it's well worth every penny that you pay. I mean, you really can't get much for what we're asking, and we're giving a lot of value on top of just the top 10. But as I always say, if you don't want to join us, that's okay. We won't hold it against you. We can't say that we necessarily understand your decision, but we will keep posting these videos with the first 4 picks for as long as you want to watch. We just ask that you subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, drop us a comment if you'd like to, ask us a question, and make sure that you hit the bell to be notified of when we post new content. And with that, I will leave you for the month. Have a great month. We'll see you next time.